My name is Rohit Nagarmal. I am a program manager in Microsoft Exchange. We're going to talk about the REST APIs for developing against Outlook and Outlook.com. You must have seen this. So the main objective for this talk is that we'll go over the why, the what, and the how of the APIs. We'll drill down into the APIs. We'll talk about some best practices. We'll also compare these APIs against existing APIs, because we heard a lot of questions from folks who are like, OK, why should I use this? How is it different from, say, AWS? We'll spend a little bit of time also talking about what we have in the pipeline. It also shows you that we are serious about investing more and more into these APIs. And if you have obvious questions like, hey, if this feature is going to be there or not, at least you get an idea of whether it's in our roadmap. If not, yes, definitely come and talk to us. We are very interested in hearing from you to make sure that we have the right features in the pipeline. Hopefully, the takeaway is that you understand that using these APIs, you can build applications end-to-end, which span Office 365 suite of products like Exchange, SharePoint, OneDrive, and others. And the fact that you can do it easily, that they're easy to learn, quick to develop. So why do these APIs matter? Well, right now in Office 365, there are hundreds of millions of users with hundreds of petabytes of data. And this list of users and the data is growing at a remarkable rate. Office 365 is one of the fastest growing products in Microsoft's history. So it makes sense to create an extensible story on top of that. Now, if you look at what support is available today, we support these APIs on Office 365. With the convergence of Outlook.com, also known as Hotmail, we are going to have 400 million or so more users join the same platform. So if you write an app today without much change at all, the same apps will work against Outlook.com users. We've heard from a lot of you about support for hybrid and on-prem. That's definitely something that we are working on. It's on our roadmap. Secondly, if you're an app developer, you want to be targeting engaged users. Folks who use Office 365 are definitely that, right? These are small business enterprises whose business depends on this. They spend a bunch of time curating this data. These are business-critical files, calendar, emails. So these APIs will throw open the door for you to access this rich data and provide more productive scenarios for these customers. One of the first things that Satya did when he took over as CEO was that he said that we are a cloud-first, mobile-first company. And that's a message that all Microsoft teams have taken to heart. When we were building these APIs, we made sure that they were built for mobile-first. That's why you will see that the SDKs that we offer, out of the gate, we have support for iOS, Android, and .NET. You can build web apps as easily as you can build store apps or Android apps. One of the key differentiators is also the granular permissions. The old model used to be that, hey, give me the keys to the whole kingdom, right? You open an app, you ask for a user's username and password. But that actually hinders app adoption, because a lot of folks or companies might not want employees to give away their permissions. So by creating an app that requires exactly only the permissions that you need, you're going to help enterprises adopt your app. For example, a user might be very wary of giving an app permission to send email on its behalf, while she might be perfectly fine in saying that, OK, your app can create the email, store it away in the drafts folder, and I'll send it later myself. So scenarios like that, where you can make sure that you don't over-exercise permissions, really helps app adoption. Now, of course, the whole APIs are based on open standards. One of the challenges for SOAP APIs has been that there are no SOAP API proxies for iOS, Android. Developers have to build their own or use off-the-shelf products which are really not production ready. SOAP APIs are also difficult to learn and develop. I don't know how many of you have used AWS before. Anybody who's used AWS? Yeah, I tried using it a few years ago, and just to do some basic scenarios like creating an email or reading my email, it took me many days to learn how to do it. Today, an app developer wants to integrate, say, mail or calendar in their app. They have like a couple of days, right? They don't have the resources to spend weeks learning it. So those basic functionalities of accessing P0 scenarios have been made really easy. So what APIs do we offer? Of course, you can go to Active Directory and access the users and groups. From Exchange and Outlook, you can access mail, calendar, contacts, and unified groups. This is the area that we will focus on today. SharePoint, you can have sites. And from OneDrive, you can have OneDrive for Business, and coming soon, OneDrive for Consumer, using the same APIs. So one thing that it shows you is that the list is large, and it's really growing. The goal is that we want to basically have a single authentication and single programming model to access all these APIs, so that you don't have to relearn how to program or get access to these different workloads every time you want to, say, work with Exchange or want to work with OneDrive. You can also build different types of apps. You can build device app, web apps, and recently also single-page apps because we've added core support. You can also make your apps admin consented or user consented, which means that when you are registering your app, you can say that my app will work if every user in this tenant gives access to it or gives consent to it, or you can say that, no, admin consent is enough, and admin grants access in behalf of all the users in the tenant. And this is useful for enterprises because they might want to log down and say, we are not going to allow any app to be used by our employees, in which case they will approve admin consented apps. This is a screenshot of what the consent screen looks like. So if you have used Facebook or Twitter or any new age technology, you are of course familiar with it. This is using the OAuth 2.0 flow. So yeah, it's built on a secure protocol. OAuth 2.0, very, very well known. Nothing new here, so the learning is again easy. We don't want to invent something new when something already is working. Advantages of course, doing this are you don't have, as an app developer, to control or save the user credentials. You want to focus on your app. Fine-grained access spoke, I spoke about that. Using access tokens, refresh tokens. You don't have to keep going back to the identity provider, so your app can be efficient. Now, because there are those various workloads, we also have a discovery service so that you can figure out what the endpoints are, and if they change, then you don't have to recode or make changes in your app. For Outlook, the endpoint is largely going to be the same. It's outlook.office365.com. But for some others, like SharePoint, it's a dynamic URL based on your tenant name and stuff like that. The discovery service has the same advantages, just like any other service. Now, going to the service itself, one of the advantages of using REST API over OData, because we chose that as our framework to RESTify our service, it offers you a very rich metadata. So at the end of the service endpoint, if you add $metadata, you will basically see, I'll show you later, all the schema of this service, which lists all the entities, the collections, the actions, the enums, complex steps, everything. Now, of course, it's not really meant for humans to consume, though I definitely find it very useful to see what properties and objects the service is offering. But you can actually point tools to it so that it can serialize and deserialize the objects and create a library for you. Of course, there are off-the-shelf libraries available that can do it for you and create client libraries for specific platforms. And we have some of them available open sourced. But let's say that you are developing on a platform in which there are no client libraries available, then you can do it yourself too. So yeah, rich tooling, as I said earlier, we have a .NET SDK, an Android and iOS SDK. Using the .NET SDK, you can build a variety of apps. So now let's dig deeper into the APIs itself. So the first one, of course, is mail. It has three permissions. You can read, write, and send. They're very obvious, of course. The main entities are that you have a folder and a set of folders. A folder is called folders. You'll see the same logic used for naming conventions, where if we have an entity name, we try to make sure that the collection is always just a plural of that. You can create, update, copy, and move folders. Folders contain messages. And messages, again, can be created, updated, deleted. You can move them. You can reply to messages. You can forward them. The difference between create reply and reply is that create reply just creates a copy, does not send it, whereas reply will actually send it. And messages, of course, can have attachments. These are some examples of URLs. We will run a few of them, and you'll get a good idea of how actually you can use it. But basically, the structure is that after the endpoint, there is a placeholder called me. Me is the logged in user. So that's like, rather than give the whole user's SMTP address or ID, you can just substitute that with me. And the service will understand based on the token it receives that, OK, you're talking about John at contoso.com. And so from me, you can go to folders and then choose the folder name. So folder/inbox. Now, for some of the well-known folder names like inbox, sent items, drafts, we have well-known names which you can use. But let's say if you created your own folder, so my folder, then you can use folder/folder name too. Of course, now if you want to navigate to messages from a folder, then you just add messages to it. There are a lot of great OData syntax parameters that allow you to do beautiful things like select a few messages, select a few properties, filter them, order them, use stop and skip for paging. I'll show a few examples of that. And then we have a send mail API specifically just for sending mail. You just call send mail. We have a request body. You provide the subject and the to and stuff, and you can send the mail. Calendar has just two permissions, read, write. And this is actually a very rich API. Calendar is also, seems easy, but it's quite complex. Calendar group is a container for calendars. So folks might, who are heavy users of calendars would like to have multiple calendars which they group together. And then within a calendar, of course, you can have events. Events can be created, updated, deleted, but also accepted, declined, and tentatively accepted. And then we have an API called Calendar View. So if you wanted in your app to paint a view of, say, a week of somebody's calendar, then you can use Calendar View. You can provide a start and end date time, and it'll give you all the events that are there for that person within that week. Now, the difference between Calendar View and events itself is that when you go to /events, you will get the events, but they will not be expanded. For example, I don't know how many of you are aware, there are two types of events you can create in Calendar. One is a master event or a recurring event, and one is a single event, right? So you could say that, hey, I'm meeting Bob at 4, or you can say I'm going to meet Bob every day or every Monday at 4 for half an hour. So when you create the latter one, actually in the store, it creates only one event, which means that when you retrieve it, it becomes your job to expand it. But that's not very easy for folks to do if they just wanted to show what a person's calendar looks for a week or a month. So rather than you have to do all that, we push that workload to the service. So using Calendar View, you'll actually just get the events specifically, so you don't have to worry if it's a recurring event, if it's a single instance. Whereas but then there are a lot of companies which do want to reduce the amount of payload that they get, in which case they do actually use events and do the expansions in-house. Contacts is pretty simple. You can have a contact folder and contacts within it. You can create, update, and delete both of them. Now, one note of caution is these contacts are not your tenant users. If you want to get the list of users in your tenant, then you should use the AAD graph. These are your personal contacts. Let's say you are a marketing person and you have a bunch of sales contacts that you have created, then you would have stored them in your email exchange account. Those are these. All right, so let's spend a few minutes going over some of these APIs that we just saw. So I'm going to open Fiddler. How many of you used Fiddler? Most of you. Yes, we live on Fiddler. But there are other tools now, but I don't know. I'm just a creature of habit. So what I've done is I've saved a few queries so that I can kind of show you a sampling of the different things that we just spoke about. So first thing we saw was the metadata. So if you look at the metadata call, the response that I got the whole schema of the service. Right? So what are the different properties of different actions or different entities? Again, it's not very human readable, of course, but it's mostly for tools to use it to create the objects that you can use in your apps. And then we looked at me. So let me go back here. There, so if I make a call to me, you get the information about the logged in user. So this is the display name, the ID of the user. OData also has a parameter called OData.metadata. Now it has 3 values. You can pass full, none, or minimal. If you pass the full value, then it will provide you all the information that it knows about that entity, which means all the navigation links and everything by default will be shown. So you saw the response we got from me before. Now look at the response that I get now. Right, so it's a lot more information. So it will tell you that, hey, there are a lot of other navigation links that you can go from me. Like you can go to calendar groups. You can go to contact folders. So I use this to really learn about the APIs, right? Because I don't want to go and look at documentation unless I have to. So by doing this, I know that, oh, I can go to /calendar, I can go to /events, like we were showing you in the samples. So you can explore the APIs just by doing a metadata full and then creating your own navigations. All right, so this is the next one. We saw how to go to inbox. So you just add folder /inbox. And it gives you the folder name, any parent folder if there is. And then you can, of course, go to messages in a folder. So it gives you all the messages with rich information about the body, the categories, the from, is it read or not. Now, of course, a lot of folks who will be developing apps will not want to get the full object back. And that's why you can use the select property and then restrict the return variables to be just exactly what you want. So I could say here, just select equal subject, for example. Now you see the difference between the payload here. I got 76,000 bytes, and here I got 2,000 bytes. And if your app was just interested in subject, then why do you want to pull down that much data? So that, and then let me show you events. So you just go /events. And again, pretty rich entity with attendees, body, location. And so this, if you notice here, recurrence is null. If this was a master event or if it's a recurring event, then this will have a bunch of information that you can use to decide or figure out what is the recurrence pattern. There is also a web link. So if your app is just going to provide some basic information and you were like, if somebody wants to know more about this event, you want to point them to the OA link. So then you can use this, and when they click this, it'll basically open OA for them and take them right into the event. So it's basically a deep link for that event into the Outlook app. So where were we? Here. So another great thing that I was talking about is top. So if you do /messages by default, you can get up to 50 records. But let's say you wanted to only show 5 events at a time, and then you want a page after that, then you can use the top to decide how many items you get back. In this case, if you see, I got only 1 value. We saw this select. Here in the events, I'm going to use it, and the response I just get those 3 properties, like I just get the start, subject, and ID. Start, subject, and end. We return ID always by default. Filter is very powerful. in this case, I'm saying give me all the events where start is greater than a particular date, right? So let's say if I change it, if I make it 129, then if you see here, 417, 416, 415, I'm getting all these. And if I go back, and if I change it to say for, what was that, 20 maybe. And you can see already I've gotten a smaller response. And all the events here are going to have a start date greater than the one that we gave. So this is very useful for folks if they want to specifically restrict the return set that they get. And it can be applied to most of the properties that you see on the object. It's not applied to all because of performance reasons. But on most of the obvious ones like start, end dates, or from and stuff, you can apply it. Another useful feature is order by. Of course, you are getting the responses you wanted to order by in a specific way. So by using order by, you can define, in this case, we are doing it by start. You can define that, hey, give me the results, but order it by start, either ascending or descending. You specify a DESC in the end for descending. And skip for paging. So you can say, I've read the first 10, I want to read the next 10, put a skip token in the end, skip parameter in the end, and you get the next set of values. So in this case, if you see, because of skip, I got only 2. Expand is another useful syntax that you can use. So imagine the APIs as a tree hierarchy, right? So you have folders in which you have messages, in which you have attachments. So if you wanted in one call to get the first level of collection items, but also expand the next level of the hierarchy, for example, hey, show me the folders, but expand all the child folders so that I can get those details in one shot. I don't have to make 2 calls. You can use expand to do that. And if you see the results here, I have gotten the folder and the child folders expanded. And what else? Send mail, of course. So now we were doing a lot of gets, right? So till now, if you saw all the HTTP verbs that we were using were gets. This is the first post. So you specify the action that you're going to call, so it's send mail. In addition to the headers that you were already sending, you also have to add the content type header now to tell the service that, hey, it should expect a JSON in the body. And the body is pretty simple. You are saying that I'm passing a message object, and these are the properties that I'm setting on that object. So I want the subject to be, whatever. Right, and then I have the user I'm sending it to. So I'm going to send it to myself. This is the user that we are using. You saw when we did the me. So I say go. And there, I got a 2 or 2 accepted. Now if I go to my inbox for Alex, I should see this email landing if I've given the right email address. Let's see in the sent items. See, I see it in the sent items. Maybe I gave the wrong address, but the email has been sent. It should be coming through. There, it's here. So the email is sent as the user. The app is acting on behalf of the user. So for anybody who's receiving these emails, it will be like as though Alex sent it. You can also reply. It's the same construct. The only difference is that you have to, of course, give the ID of the message that you're replying to. And you can see here, I can give a single value, which is a comment. It's just a string. You can give whatever you want. Calendar view, as I was telling you earlier, this is the expanded view. So if you say execute on this one, I have the wrong values here. Yeah. So 425, yeah. So say 5. 1. Let's not do the top for now. So now let's look at this. So if you notice here, there is a variable called type. This tells you whether the event that you retrieved is a single instance or is it an occurrence. So because we used calendar view, you got the occurrences expanded. So this lunch at conference is a recurring event that I have created, which is going to happen every day at 1 p.m. All times are in UTC. So if I go back and look at Alex's calendar, you'll notice that this is exactly the view I have. Lunch at conference is a repeating event. So if I go and open it, see, it tells me you want to edit one occurrence or you want to edit the whole series. That tells you that this was the case. Whereas, say, this one was not. Right? This is a single instance. So yeah, people have really loved calendar view because they were like, I didn't care about doing all the expansions. Just give me an API where I can specify. One more thing that we're thinking about is providing an easy way to just specify like a time window. So give like a day, a week, or a month. So you don't have to give the date and times. Because most people want to know from the beginning of the week till the end of the week, and they just want to paint that view. Now, similarly, you can go to contacts. What you will notice is the simplicity of understanding how these URLs work. So once you know that me/events work, you can even guess that me/contacts will work. There. And of course, you can create a contact. So I go here. I can say, build, execute. Now if I go back and go to people, there, the contact is already here. So APIs, hopefully, the message you're taking is it's simple and easy to use. We are not using any client library here, right? We are using just the basic raw HTTP calls to do everything. It only gets more powerful and easier if you add the client libraries to it. I have put a list of some of the queries that we have run here. You can, if later you go to the PowerPoint deck, then hopefully it can be useful for you to create these. Now, one of the announcements that we did at Build, both at the keynote and there was a session yesterday, is the introduction of the Groups API. These are Office 365 groups which are available today. Again, there are two permissions here, read and read-write. Group has a bunch of interesting entities and collection. Of course, you have the group and the groups. There are functions available like subscribing by mail. And what that means is that in a group, you can, when you subscribe by mail, all conversations that you see in a group will be sent as an email to you. You can add the group as your favorite or do the reverse, remove it, and reset unseen count, which means that if you, for example, let me just show you quickly how a group looks like. So if people are not familiar, they'll at least get an idea. So here, just write parallel with your, this view. So if you see you have groups, you click on the one that I've created. I don't have any conversation, but you can start a conversation saying, and this basically starts a conversation where all the members in this group, when they join, when they see this group, they can see it. And of course, the group has calendar. You can manage members, these files, notebook. So the APIs are to access all these things. So yeah, so you can basically add favorite, remove favorite, subscribe by mail. Groups have conversations, as we just saw. We added one new conversation. You can create them, read or delete them. Conversations can have threads inside them, and threads have posts. You can decide to operate at the thread level or conversation level. It's up to you. If you want two levels of nesting in your UI to show a conversation and thread and then post, you can just do that. Or if you just want one level, then you can just use threads. Posts can contain attachments. And of course, groups can also contain calendar. Now notice that these are in beta. The other ones that you saw till now were all in 1.0, whereas the groups API are just out. They've just been deployed worldwide, probably in just the last couple of days. It's still at, I think, 95% or so deployed. So you should be able to play with it if you have an Office 365 tenant. But yeah, we're going to keep it in beta, get feedback, make any improvements that we need to before we move it to V1.0. Let's quickly do a few groups queries. Let me do a time check. Same thing, let me just clear this. So to get to a group, you use its SMTP address or its ID. And this is the REST API group that we just saw. So it gives you some basic information about the group, whether the person is subscribed by mail or not. And if you are in an organization, then you might have joined a bunch of groups, right? So if an app wants to show you a list of all the groups that you're a member of, then they can use me/join groups. The reason join groups hangs out of me is because, of course, it's a personal setting. These are your join groups. A group can be joined by multiple people. So if I go to me/join groups, it will show the list of the groups that I've joined. If you go and do join groups, then it will show you the list of all the groups that you've joined. So in this case, I hopefully get only one. Yep. Now, if we go back here, you'll notice that its favorite setting is set to false. So let's exercise changing that and making this group my favorite. So if you notice again, just add favorite. We had posting. There's no request body because it's just a binary switch. So you go there. I get it 202, which means I'm good. Now if I go back to join groups and replay this favorite is set to true. Of course, I can do the reverse. I'm not going to show you that. Then subscribe by mail. Basically sets that property. I think you can see it in over here. See, this is showing us subscribe, which means do you want to subscribe? But because we have changed it and we have already subscribed, if I refresh, I should see now it's saying unsubscribe. So yeah, unsubscribe is just the opposite. Creating a conversation, you go to the /conversations collection. I mean, first let's just list the conversations. So I do a get. I get all the conversations that are available. So here, the two conversations. One says hello world. The first one was the welcome one. And now if I want to create a conversation, go to the same endpoint. Instead of get, I do a post. And of course, I have to tell the service what I'm posting. So because it's in the conversations collection, I don't have to really say that this is a conversation object, but start providing the properties. So I give the topic. I say that it has a thread. It has one thread which contains a post, and the body of the post is post from build. So let's do that. This is a new conversation. Yeah. So I got a 201. If I go back, I should see it here. Oh. Generally, there will be a toast. We'll say new activity. And if you click that, it shows you. Let's see. Maybe it just come back. Oh, I did get an email because I've subscribed to it. Did you notice that? Because I had subscribed to this group, I got an email of that post in my inbox. And if I go back here, I also see the new conversation show up here. Now, as I was telling you, if you don't want to operate at the conversation level, you can just do threads. And you can get the threads. You can get a specific thread by specifying the ID. So here, if I go back, I have two threads. I take copy. I go to my threads call. I I don't know if it's the same thing, but what is wrong? It says not found. I probably didn't cut and paste it right. Let's try that again. Okay. So I did a /threads. Let me take the ID again. Copy. Let's use Notepad to make sure. I'm not putting anything else. Right. And getting all this. Okay, so we have our thread/ID. I know, it might not work. It's taking more time. So good, yeah. So I think I just made a mistake in copying the ID. But yeah, so you can specifically look at a thread and it shows you who were the thread recipients. You can then further, if you have a thread, go and look at the posts. So you can do /posts. And it gives you the post that we had initially put in it. Where is the body? There, post from build. All right, so similar to getting the post, you can also forward a post. So if you go back and give the post ID and then specify the forward function, you can give a value and give an email to anybody outside of the group, and it'll send it along. I'm going to leave that. Yep. If you think you need to learn a little more about any of the things that I'm skipping or moving over, definitely come back to me. I can show it to you. I can even share the fiddler traces with you. Yeah, and then of course you can do delete conversation. So instead of HTTP get or post that we saw till now, use the delete verb. Give the ID of the conversation. Let's go back and see which one that we created. So I go to conversations. Set. Execute. Forget it. I called delete on the whole conversations collection here. Let me do get here. There. So I picked the one that we just created. I'll go back and do delete. So I'm doing delete. I am going to just paste the ID. Oh, I did I have that? Thank you. I make this mistake a lot of times. There. So hopefully this is a new conversation will go away if I refresh. There, that one is gone. All right, so hopefully that gave you a good idea of various things you can do. You can work on conversations, threads, you can create conversations, delete conversations, reply on threads, forward posts. And yes, I did not go into events, but you could also go and look at events. They are exactly the same as me events that we saw earlier. So here, let me just show you if I did go to /events and did a get, execute. I don't have any events. Looks like I don't have any created here. So if I go to the calendar of the group and remove, see I don't have any, so let's just create one quickly. Test event, save. So I have that now, go back and replay this request. I got something back, so yeah. So events work the same way as you saw earlier with me. You can go and create events by doing a post here. You can update and delete them. The only difference between a group event and a me event is that there is no accept, decline, or cancel. Because it makes sense, right? If you are a group, you have many members. This is not your specific calendar that you can go and delete an event. So if anybody sends an invite to a group email address, then it gets auto-accepted. Yes, you can delete it, and any member can delete it. You don't have to be an admin. Okay. Another cool feature that we added in the last couple of months is webhooks, also known as notifications. We heard from many, many folks that, hey, we need support for notifications. When things change, our app needs to be aware of those changes so we can provide the right experience for our users. So permissions, they derive from whatever you're trying to get a notification for. So if you are trying to get notification on somebody's inbox, then of course you need mail permissions. If you're trying to get notification on somebody's calendar, then you need calendar permissions and contacts similarly. So yes, so we support message events, contacts, but we already support even groups, which just previewed. So if you want to get notification if something has changed in somebody's conversation or threads or events, you get that too. This is a sample. To create a new subscription, you go to Me Subscriptions. And if you want to get to a group subscription, then that's the URL. I'll show you a quick, I think I had it planned. So let me show you how that works. So here, I'm going to create a subscription. And if you look at the request body, I provide a few properties. I say this is a type of push subscription. The reason we have put type is that in the future, we envision adding other types, like streaming subscription and stuff. Resource URL, what is the URL or the resource that you want to get notified on? So I'm saying that any changes in messages, not any changes, but if there is a create, update, or delete event that happens on messages, then please let me know. And where should you let me know? You should let me know at this URL. Send me the callback at this URL. So let's go. And so I have this site in which I am basically listening for the notifications. Right now, see, I've cleared logs, so I have nothing here. I go and I create the subscription. I get a 201 created, so I'm good. I get a subscription ID back. Now, if I go back here and refresh this page, you see I've gotten a notification. Now, you must be wondering that, hey, you did not create an email, you did not delete an email, why did you get a notification? Well, this is of type acknowledgement. So these are notifications that you auto-subscribe for. Two things, acknowledgement type and miss type. So this is important because your service needs to have a valid handshake, right? So you're like, oh, okay, I created subscription, I got an act, everything is working end-to-end, I'm good. And you can also decide to just store the subscription ID when you get it back. Now let's go back and do some activity. So I could go and, because we did it on the messages, I have to go to Alex's mailbox. So I go here, go to his inbox, and I delete one email. So I go and say delete. That message is gone. I come back to my site. So imagine if this was your app. Let's see if you got a notification now. Yep. So you've got a notification. The change type is deleted. So it tells you that a deleted event happened in your resource URL. It tells you the type of the item that got deleted. So it's telling you that a message got deleted, and it gives you the full ID of the message. Now, it's useful to just give the ID and not more information about the object because of permissions. So you've got a change notification. You want to make sure that the permission is still valid when you try and access this. Yeah, in the deleted case, the object is gone. But in certain update cases, it's very much useful. It's not gone. It's gone to the deleted items, but yeah. Right, so we saw that work. Of course, you can view the subscription because you had the subscription ID from the create call or by reading it when you got the notification. You can always go and check. Of course, this subscription ID is wrong. So I go back. There's the subscription ID. You can have multiple subscriptions. Generally, the life of a subscription right now is around 3 days. Is that right? 3 days. So you can renew it. I have one equal less. There. I love notifications. All right, so what were some other notable changes that we made? We've added support for time zone. Oh, I didn't move the display, sorry. There. So we added support for time zone in events. Earlier, you could only have UTC time and you could not provide information that, hey, this event occurs in PST or in EST or wherever. So now you have a start time zone and end time zone along with start and end. We added support for full text search. This is really, really key. So if you want to look for, in your inbox, any email which contains the word blah, and you can use full text search. Search works by indexing a bunch of very common properties and providing the answers really fast. You can also use an AQS type of query syntax, which if you're familiar with Outlook and OA, to give things like from, colon, email address, and it'll know that it has to search for that property. An example. We also have support for users' photo, HD photo. So what happens is that if you use OA or Outlook to upload a photo for your user, what we do is we take that photo and we create multiple copies of it in various resolutions. So you can get access to not only the highest resolution that you sent, but also the other resolutions. So if you are building an app and you're building a mobile app, you might want to use a smaller resolution. Whereas in the web app of your same solution, you might want to show the full picture. Core support, as I said earlier, you can build single page apps now. There are examples of it already available on the office.com site. Quickly show you search. I'm going to be really quick here. I have only 10 minutes and I have a bunch to cover. So search photo. Here's the example of saying, hey, give me all messages. And if you just don't want to give anything special, just the email address, you don't care what properties or anything, just give that, and it'll give you the return. But if you are interested in, say, I just want to search the from, then you can also provide something like that, and it'll do the same thing. User photo, you can go from me and say /user photo. This will give you the highest resolution that we have available. So if I click that and look at this, it'll tell you that, hey, I have a photo whose height and width and ID is this. And you can then go and do a dollar value to get the bits. So go there, open it, there's a photo. You can get the whole collection if you want and see what all sizes are available. So if you do /user photos, then it tells you that, hey, I have these 5 different copies available, starting from 240, which you just saw, to as small as 48 by 48. Here I have a sample of, you're trying to get the smaller one. The ID is the resolution. So there, get a smaller picture. Go back. Yes, so of course, you're not going to learn everything about Outlook APIs in this talk. That should be my aspiration. But there is a new site called dev.outlook.com, which is specifically catering to all information about Outlook APIs. You can learn both about the REST APIs and about how to extend Outlook client. You saw a lot of cool demos and sessions on mail APIs, mail add-ins, the Uber one. So you can use this as a launching pad to go and learn and explore. It also has a link to the different code samples that we have. So go to the code sample site. There are samples available for various platforms and for various that use various SDKs. I will show you one quickly. You spend a couple of minutes, just a couple of minutes. So let's just say if you went to devoutlook.com and you get to code samples. So you see a bunch of samples here. It's a huge list, and this is growing continuously. I will show you one, which is this daughter project. This one, it's a Windows Store app. Basically shows you how you can access a calendar and files and stuff. So if you look at the project, it'll give you basic information about what are the prerequisites. For example, it needs Visual Studio. You need these API tools, Visual Studio add-ins, and Office developer site. You can see the code, of course, in GitHub. So if you go to Git, you can download the project, and you can start using it. I have downloaded the project, of course. I'll show you the basic steps. So if you have downloaded the project, you'll see this. The first thing you do is you go and you do add connected service. These instructions are there in the on the site that we were just there. So you go add connected service, and you will see Office 365 because you would added the Office 365 API tools. You go there, you sign in, and we were Alex all along. So once you sign in, these are all very easy experience. You can do all this by code, but I would not do it. This is so much easier if you want to configure your app and say, hey, my app is going to require these permissions. You can go and now pick and choose all the different permissions that your app needs from various services. So you'll get a UI where you can say, hey, I want to choose just the read and write of calendar. I don't need files. I need user and groups, but I don't need, say, sites. So once you do that, based on what you have chosen, it'll automatically go and get the right packages and libraries that are required from NuGet, and you can launch the project. And let me increase the size a little bit. I don't think it's very readable. There. So I just put a breakpoint at the first thing, right? We're trying to get to Azure Active Directory to understand who's the user, get more information about him, so I can show his name, his department if necessary. So I get the endpoint set up, and further down, I'm just going to get the context. So here I got a token. One cool site that I really like to use is that you can actually see what this token contains. So if you go to JWT, it was written by a person inside the Active Directory team. And if you paste the token here, I'm not doing a good job cutting and pasting today. Control C. Not getting it starting with M. It's not starting with M, it's starting with E. Why am I not getting the whole thing? Okay. All right, there we got it. There. So it shows you that, hey, this token was issued for Alex and that it has user profile read scope for him. The audience is graphwindows.net. So if you take this token and replay it to this audience, then they will like it, they will accept it. They will do a bunch of checks on all these other properties to make sure that nobody is doing something that they shouldn't be doing. So anyway, so basically I return the graph client, which I just got, so that I can make now queries against this service. So here I'm going to try and get the current user by saying .users, where object ID equals the logged in user that I have. And I am going to then use this current users that I got back. So if you see, I got all the nice properties on the user object, like his department and everything. I decide to take the ones that I want, and I put them in my view. Now here again, word of caution, I don't think this is a good thing that we did here, where we got all the properties. If I was only interested in 5, I should have just gotten those. Here, so you can see that I have put those information here. Other quick thing is that calendar events. When you call that, I am going to use the Outlook client that I created, just similar to how I would have done for the previous one. And I call the get calendar events method. And here I'm saying just give me 2 records. So I go in and I get the calendar events back. If you want to see what calls this is making, we can basically just turn on Fiddler. I have some filters. I don't know if it'll there. I'm going to see some noise, but same thing again. Get calendar events. If I go back here, these are the calls I made from the service. Very similar to what you saw in all the demos that we did. Right? It's calling events, order by, start, and top equals 2. So if you're debugging your app, if you're using Client Library, Fiddler can be a really useful tool. You can make sure that, hey, we're making the right calls, you're getting the right responses, you can see the payload, and also decide that, hey, maybe I'm getting too much. All right, we have 3 minutes. I have to run. Best practices, I'm just, most of you should already be aware of this, but it helps to add the user agent information because, tomorrow if there are issues, then it's easy for us to identify. So uniquely identifying your app using user agent becomes useful. Maintain a failure log for troubleshooting. The whole request responses really help if you have to deal with support. I have already reiterated this many times, but be mindful of the requests you generate, both for the health of your app and also potentially from not being throttled. The more CPU cycles you spend asking for things that you don't need, the more they go against your quota. Yep. I had said earlier that I'll give you a quick peek of what is the difference. For folks who probably don't know AWS EAS, this might not be very interesting. But these are existing protocols. EAS is primarily used by mobile clients. AWS is used by services. The differences are that, of course, REST APIs are growing APIs. I would say that just in the last 3 months, this list has tremendously increased, right? Things like notifications, and we are coming up with sync. So yes, there is, of course, not a lot of parity yet with AWS, but that list is growing. We have OAuth support. Though OAuth support is yes on AWS, but there is no granular scoping. You cannot do that, hey, give me only mail, give me only calendar. Next important thing, Exchange Online is available, of course, on all. We are working to enable hybrid and on-prem. We don't think we will go further than 2013, and Outlook.com users is coming. The advantages, of course, these are modern APIs compared to AWS. They are faster to learn. There is a lot of support with Sandbox, with documentation, easy to learn, and more support for client SDKs. Roadmap, we have, batching is actually done. It should be rolling out, in a matter of weeks. Extended properties, where you can access all the different properties that are available, which are hidden. A lot of apps actually use a message, and they might add their own property for their app, right? So they might put their own ID, or they might put some tag. So that can be also done. Sync is coming. Free busy information about the calendar, mail tips, OOP settings, delegate scenarios. And list of partners, right? So we have, in the last few months, worked with many partners who are already have an app or working on an app. These are some of them. One example I always love is Zapier. They are an IFTTT company, if this, then that. So they were very interested when they saw our preview announcement last year, and they reached out and said, hey, we want to integrate. And I'm not kidding, it took them like 3 days. It's of course all them. They're super smart people. It took them 3 days to integrate with us, and they had an integration where if you go to their site and you say, hey, I have an Office-Tify account, you could say, oh, if I get an email, then post something in my, say, Dropbox. If I get an event in my calendar, then also put that event in my Google Calendar. So all those interesting scenarios. Review, all right, good. So we are right on time. Hopefully, you got a good peek of what the REST APIs are and some deep dive into all these APIs, how you can access them. We did not use any complex client libraries for purpose of making sure that you got the message that ultimately it's just requests, HTTP requests. Related sessions, most of the sessions are done. They'll all be available online. There's one more, building universal apps with connected services I recommend you go to. These are slides that we've been asked to put for all Office 365 sessions, but they're very useful because there's a bunch of information available on the dev program site where you can get emails, free developer subscriptions, training, call to action. Don't forget to collect your stickers. Check out Express Talks and sign up for the developer program. Please evaluate. My boss really needs this evaluation. Finished. All right, thank you guys. Oh, questions? Anybody have questions, please? You can ask me. I will repeat them so that it'll get recorded, but otherwise you're free to come here and ask me too.